This is Ethereal Aeons Activation. If you're new to the channel, I'm Lesly Damai. Everyone else, welcome back. In this video, we will be discussing one of the most important transformative phases or levels of the spiritual awakening process. If you're in the Hermit phase or you suspect that you are, stay tuned until the end. The Hermit phase of your spiritual awakening is, in my opinion, the most important phase, because this is where you unplug. You are consciously unplugging yourself from the network of matrix programming, systems, and people. And if you're here, congratulations, because not everyone gets here. And the reality has probably done everything in its power to prevent you from getting to this phase of your spiritual awakening. This is where you reshape your mind and your energy. When you unplug, the next step is to integrate yourself. And that way you become a more impenetrable version of yourself, which means you can no longer be swayed by the external agendas. You can no longer be brainwashed by the subliminal messages. You are no longer going to fall victim of people pleasing and energy vampirism. So that's a big way, a big loosh harvesting mechanism that the reality has. That's a big way of you believing that the physical reality is the only thing that exists, because it gets you so invested into those concepts. And so when you're in the Hermit phase, you unplug yourself from all of that. The road to spiritual and emotional sovereignty is not crowded. The road path is very narrow. And while most people stay on the conveyor belt, chasing the dangling carrot, you no longer fall for those routes or those ways of being. You really do blaze your own trail instead. But there is an intuitive knowing or sensing that you must go uphill. You sense that the fruits that are really going to sustain you are at the top of the mountain. And so a hermit is a person living in solitude as a spiritual discipline. The ultimate purpose is to escape the reincarnation cycle or trap, to evolve past the universal simulation. If you take a look at the tarot card, the lantern symbolizes his inner light guiding him, or like the North Star guiding him. And the staff symbolizes his wisdom and integrating that into the earth. And finally, he is at the top of the mountain peak. He has made it to the top. And essentially, that light in the lantern will grow so bright it can no longer be contained. And you really do become a beacon of light for those around you, for those who remain in your life. Because oftentimes you're going to lose everything to get there. Nowadays, we have so many distractions that's why I say this path is not crowded at all, because there's too many distractions. So if you think you're on this path, but you're still spending hours in the digital realms scrolling and doing things unconsciously or just out of habit, you need to take a closer look, because you're never going to make it on that path fully. And this is an all or nothing type of thing. So you have to have more willpower. And there's so many distractions and streams of instant gratification to the ego. So like I said, if you're on this path, congratulations. And if you're wanting to really immerse yourself on there, and once there's going on it, there's no going back. If you're ready for that, drop all of that nonsense as soon as possible. Because what this means is that if you do say no to the distractions, if you don't go back on the conveyor belt where everyone else is, each time you do that, you're passing another test. Okay, you're passing another test, and your willpower begins to grow this way. And so you'll be that much more impenetrable after. Now, many of us who have found ourselves on this path had to lose everything to get here. That means relationships, that means homes, that means jobs, that can mean a lot of things. There's drastic changes in your life. And essentially, the reality that was built upon false or inverted pretenses are going to shatter. So you have to restart your foundation. There is a deep seeking of inner truth and a lack of societal compliance or feeling obligated to partake in hanging out with people every day or family. That just goes out the window. It's like being in a deep, intimate relationship with yourself. And now you really get to know who you are. And when you know who you are, you start to value your energy more. And so you no longer just let that slip and waste with superficial things or people. There's more of a knowing of who you are. And once you do, you don't fall for that people pleasing or just following the trends and what other people are doing. Again, you're carving your own path. And my hermit phase lasted for years. It lasted for several years. I've gone through 3 main ones. Well, yeah, I say 2 or 3, 2 significant ones. But now it's almost like my hermit phase is just this constant thing that I'm in. And it's not so much like it's not so much like trying to just avoid everyone. It's more so that things just don't stick to me anymore. You see, the things that used to stick around a lot, they just don't stick because I'm impenetrable in that way. And so while there's still things within myself I'm discovering and getting to know, the matrix can no longer pull certain things over me anymore because I had to go through that so many times. And so there is a lot of suffering that comes with this. There is a lot of a loss that comes with it, but it's just part of the process. And you have to allow those things to come up so that you can face them and get past that barrier. You know, during a specific time of my hermit phase, I lived alone and I worked alone and I did things that I never thought I would do alone, you know, spend days in nature by myself, you know, camping, doing all this stuff, traveling, getting to know who I was, right? And so there is such a beauty and a dignity and just such a self-love and compassion that's created and an understanding of all of this. And so, I mean, that phase was the most amazing phase that I have ever gone. And just kind of like talking about this now, man, it just like brings chills because it shows me how far I've come and how resistant I was. And we all carry this potential within us. And so I think it's just that initial happening when you find yourself on the path that it can seem kind of shocking. You're very vulnerable at this time, but there are phases and levels and spectrums to this. There's a difference between being alone and in solitude versus being lonely. So if you find yourself copping out that sad sob story that you feel alone, you're lonely, that's a program and you need to clip it and you need to heal through that. So all of these things are going to surface and bubble up when you're alone. You're finally alone. So you're going to face these things and you are your own inner shamanic healer. So you're going to find ways and techniques and you're going to implement them. Also, if you have children or if you're married, understand you can also take this path as well. You're not excluded, but you can be that beacon of light. You can hold that lantern and hold your boundaries and hold your consistency and carve that time out for yourself to the point where everyone just expects it and knows it. It's possible for you to still take this path despite all of that. Now, if you're in some sort of toxic relationship, if you are living with like toxic people, you got to get out. And so you really then have to take the hermit phase and leave, even if it's just you with your torch and your staff. You got to get out because that's not going to cut it. And again, it's this inner knowing that there's no more risking it. There's no more excreting your energy to any of these external superficial things, because a lot of the time it's us putting ourselves in those situations. And so you got to cut that real quick. So many different levels to this. And finally, you find yourself in a point in a situation, living a life that feels like it was created by your divine consciousness. And things are going to just become so much more magical in your life that anything that is not in vibrance, that is not in resonance with that, is no longer going to stick to you. You're only going to allow in what you're creating. Oh, beautiful wind. You're only going to allow in what you're creating consciously from divine intelligence. So essentially, you know, I'm still a hermit in many ways. I'm literally on top of the mountain now, but I do not feel any sort of obligation to associate myself with anything that is not up to par to the frequency I'm emitting. And if anything becomes dull or stagnant, that just means it's coming from me and that I need to integrate that. And if anything external is coming my way, by this point, on top of the mountain, you know how to repel that. You become impenetrable. So I hope this video was helpful. I would love to hear a comment, see where you are at in your journey. I also help people go through this. I also help people during their spiritual awakening. I am a spiritual sovereignty coach. So check out the links in my description if you would like to work with me. I also have my classes 25% off until mid-February. So I think we got like another week and a half. All of that's on my website, etherealaeonsactivation.com, and in the links in my description. Also, join us inside the School of Mysticism, where we have a private, uncensored community. We talk everything esoteric, occult, with other awakened spirits who can give you support and get you off of these mainstream platforms. So I will see you very soon. Please hit the like button and subscribe. Thank you so much.